Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can see me, and I'm tall enough to be able to deliver to you the words from my heart and experience. I will open up by sharing some words from the great late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The contemporary tendency in our society is based our distribution on scarcity, which has vanished, and to compress our abundance into the overfed mouths of the upper class until they gag with superfluity. If democracy is to have breadth of meaning, it is necessary to adjust this inequity today and moving forward. It is not only moral, but it is also very intelligent to do. We are wasting and degrading human life by clinging to archaic thinking. Those are some powerful words spoken more than a half a century ago, and they resonate today in our society. We all need to be the change that Rhode Island needs to embrace. I am joined here this morning with my colleagues in government from the House and the Senate, and also Lieutenant Governor Daniel McKee in person. I have received numerous phone calls of other elected officials of their absence this morning. I thank them for at least the respect of the phone call. There are numerous things that has plagued the state of Rhode Island for far too long. The world, not just Minneapolis, the world, the entire world, bore witness to the lynching, the murder of a human being by the hand of a man in blue, another human being. When is enough enough? The time, my brothers and sisters, is upon us. This revolution shall be televised. There's no more backward thinking. Our youth are demonstrating their anger. We have not heard all of what they have been saying for years. We have definitely postured ourselves to make believe that we are listening, giving them the attention, but we have failed to hear what they have had to say. I am a child of civil rights. I have been part of many movements. I am a product of unity, compassion, love, courage, and loyalty. But it comes a point as a lawmaker, you have to take a stand. Yes. You have to take a stand for right, because it supersedes everything else. We cannot placate anymore. It's not the fashion. It's not acceptable. And it should not even bear its head in light. I call upon the entire state of Rhode Island to embrace unity. We are all one. We may look different, but we are all one under we are here under God, one nation in His glory. We go to church, no matter what denomination, and give Him the praise. But how hollow is that praise? Because when we pray, we are supposed to pray for each other. We are supposed to pray for the goodness that He has provided each and every one of us. Just like this day, this brand new day, where we are all gathered for the right reasons. This brand new day for us to be able to do better than we did yesterday. This brand new day where we should be able to embrace each other's truth and stop denying it just because it hasn't been your world, your upbringing, your teaching does not make it less a reality for those of us who suffer in it on a daily basis. There are a list of things that we all need to get together and address. Law enforcement on all levels in all municipalities in the state of Rhode Island. It's time to create a cohesive and unified body to root out those who are proven to be unfit to wear a badge. For far too long, these bad actors, these jump out boys have been sheltered, have been protected, have been encouraged, have been condoned, and even promoted. And it has to stop. Because not every law enforcement officer is a bad cop. And by just that handful of bad ones, it makes all the good ones look the same. So I thank all of the officers who came up, stood up, and made it known that they're not part of this madness.
Thank you.
But their hands are tied. They too have to be concerned about retribution from their own. We need to be the ones to protect them. The Policeman's Bill of Rights needs a great overhaul. I understand it may be a struggle, a fight with the unions. I am a union member and a union supporter. But the time has come to right all the wrongs that we have had to endure unfairly. So that is one area that we need to address immediately, or we are going to see another 9 minutes of someone else's life being taken away, some other person handcuffed being beaten to a pulp, some other home being invaded without the proper credentials, some other person being murdered in their home while they're sleeping. And these individuals, without the proper training, are getting away with it. Absolutely no more, I say. No more. Everybody needs to be made accountable.
Yes.
It's time.
Yes.
It is a two-way street. If you expect me to be responsible and represent you well, I'm expecting law enforcement to not only serve, but to protect, not to beat me down like a runaway slave on somebody's plantation. Body cameras is a must. That will show what really happened on both sides. Surely it's not a perfect situation, but it's definitely a better start than what we have working. Both sides must bear responsibility. If you're wrong, then you must be prepared to deal with the consequences. And that's on both ends. I asked for a state reform task force to oversee what I have just mentioned. We must get it moving, we must get it implemented, and we must utilize it. Implement a 3-strike and you're out. People of color gets 9 minutes and they're out. Our judicial system, it lacks diversity. And that's not to say that most of the judges on the bench are not good judges, not qualified, or not doing a good job. It's to say that there too are some bad judges. And the representation of this great state is not in that system that needs to reflect it on a daily basis. You walk in any of those courtrooms and you see who are there that has to face those judges. Some of them, they have no clue of the cultural differences that come before them. So they use their own upbringing and their way of life to judge others. That has to stop. Outsourcing our tax dollars. That is a thing that Rhode Island does. We have qualified, excellent individuals, residents of the state of Rhode Island, on all levels, that get bypassed. People of color not only get bypassed, they get dismissed. Even with all of the qualifications, it's always said, if you go to school, you work hard, you follow the rules, you will succeed. It applies here in Rhode Island for some, not all. Many of our children have had to leave home, Rhode Island, in order to get employment. How unfair is that? How unfair is that for a mother and a father having to give the blessing to their child to go somewhere else to be able to earn a living and be prosperous, when in fact they have a city and a state for which they were born and love, but the city and state don't love them. So outsourcing that COVID dollars, take a look, do your homework. There's plenty resources to address some of the ills that are plaguing us today. There is language for which those decisions can be made. In the minority community, the community of color, during this pandemic, have not been properly, timely addressed with the resources, the equipment to combat or handle COVID-19. Yet and still, we are headed into another phase of reopening. I am not against reopening the businesses, in no way. That's part of our economy. But remember, keep in mind that when those decisions are made, they should not only be made for people that look like the individuals making those decisions. Broad Street, Cranston Street, Westminster Street in the hood, not downtown. The mom and pops, businesses and restaurants don't have the luxuries that East Greenwich, Narragansett, South Kingstown, Bristol, Barrington, and those other wealthy cities and towns. No shame, no degrading, no fault towards them. I applaud them to be able to open up and step up. But you cannot, and you should not, believe that the one size fits all fits everybody, applies to everybody. If you're going to roll out a plan, you should roll it out in a way that everybody will benefit, not just some. You cannot take care of some and not take care of all and claim you're doing the right thing. Enough of this placating. Enough of this pandering. Enough. Let's be honest. Let's be truthful. Let's call a spade a spade. No disrespect or pun intended. But it is what it is. DCYF. The D, the C, and the Y, and the F that it deserves should be purged. Our children, all the children, are our children.
Right.
But the treatments, the placement on the children of color, it is horrendous.
That's right.
It is horrendous. It's a true fact. I'm not standing before you presenting empty words. I see these cases. I see these families. And I see the decision makers behind the door. Again, just because you had the privilege of almost a perfect upbringing, childhood, or living, does not mean that everybody has it. And if we have it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just like yours. But it's a good one. Just because you're poor don't mean that you're less than. And we should not be treated in that way either. So we need to, that long overdue, to get in that DCYF and fix it on behalf of all those children. Minority quotas. The state has a ranking for decades for 10% participation. The language says you apply for a state contract. Best effort. What does that really mean? Best effort to have people of color work on your project. It should be a mandatory. You want this contract of $5, $10, $15, $20 million? You need to employ, improve, and have on the spot 10%? No, 10% passed out long time ago. The only reason that 10% passed is because an agreement had to be made to include Portuguese as a minority class in order for it to succeed. And with that, it did not open up the doors for people of color, the real people of color. I suggest that it be brought up to 25% minority participation, with a minimum of 15% on the spot. I'm willing to work with you, and I'm confident that these hard workers will do the same. You don't see me when you need me. You don't use me in order for you to complete your forms. You employ me so that I too can provide for my family, so I too can succeed in this glorious life, in this wonderful state of Rhode Island and its great plantations. So we need to increase it. 25% is almost where we're at with the diversity in this state. 10% is an insult when not even 0.01% is met, and nobody is saying anything about it. Nobody. Driver's license for undocumented. Our brothers and sisters. Our brothers and sisters. Our brothers and sisters. In many instances of businesses in our cities and towns, it's our brothers and sisters that are in that kitchen. They're in that detail shop of your car dealership. They're in your office building cleaning it up. They're in the nursing home wiping your parents' behinds. They're in the hospital asking for mercy. But let me tell you, we cannot and will not give them driver's license. They are contributors of our state, of our economy. They pay their taxes. They are our brothers and sisters. They had the privilege, the opportunity, the honor of having driver's license until we had a Republican governor strip it away. It was not creating a problem at all for anyone. It was bringing more resources into our economy. The Republican governor who stripped that opportunity away from our brothers and sisters created a problem of unsafetyness for all of us. because he placed forcefully our brothers and sisters to get in their vehicles and drive to the places and the businesses for which many of you are owners of, to make a living. How fair is that? It wasn't a problem. By giving them that license that they're deserving of, our roads will be safer. Insurance company will insure them. They'll continue to be able to put more into the economy. Many of them are working 2 and 3 jobs and taking 3 and 4 buses. Now, it's probably 6 and 7 buses, seeing that there's a limit of how many can be on the bus. How are they to survive? We need to join forces and call upon our leaders and provide our brothers and sisters that vehicle and that item of a license to be able to properly function like you and me on a daily basis. We have a lot of individuals in our cities and towns, the rural areas, that travel into our city and benefit in many of our jobs. I would like to see reciprocity where cities, rural cities and towns will reach out to people of color to come into their cities and towns and their municipalities and work. Why is it good for them to come and take hours, participate in hours, enjoy hours, be with us, and we cannot do the same? That needs to be changed. A living wage. We experience firsthand frontline workers. Who have they been? Who have been our real frontline workers? In addition to the doctors, those experts that deserve every praise, those that are still there and those that have passed on doing their job. Just think for 1 second, the individual that you paid no attention to before, that you would walk past, has been the one at the forefront doing all that is necessary to do, not only to survive, but to get the job done. And they are not working for a living wage. These individuals are at $12, $13, and some just $14, and that's on the top end. While others are making $50, $75, and even $100 an hour and sitting at home on their phone giving directive of who needs to be there or they'll be fired. That needs to stop. We have to think about bringing a living wage to our state once and for all. If any time the need for essential worker has been shown and proven, it's been through this COVID-19 pandemic. They are more valuable than we have been giving them credit for. Our youth programs. Our youth are coming and they're talking and they're screaming and nobody's hearing what they're saying. Everybody is saying they're angry, they're unruly, they're criminals. Those are the labels that we should not place on any of them, ever. By doing So you're only fueling that anger, that hate, that frustration that you created, but blaming our youth. We need youth programs in the school, during school, and after school. A lot of people are going to say, where are we going to get the money? Let me tell you, darling, I know a lot of pots where it can come from. We need our youth in paid internship and jobs. I see many internship and paid students in them, but none look like me. If it's good for one, it's time to share the wealth, and it's good for all. The state MPA list. To get on that list, it is a struggle. It is a struggle. That should not be so. Minority businesses should be able to be on that list and called by the state for providing services that they are in business with. But rather than utilizing the state MPA list, they go out of state and purchase the goods. Civil service exams, if they're not to be removed completely, it needs to be overhauled, because it's another barrier for individuals of color to be able to get state employment. Easy gun access. We really need to be able to look at that. Domestic violence, youth killing youth, that's partly for access of illegal weapons, and the other is because of an angry spouse or someone dealing with mental health and we have not identified it. We need to look into that and seriously make a change. The state of Rhode Island have many boards and commissions, paid boards. Many of the individuals on them have been on them for decades, on top of decades, on top of decades. There are many qualified, eligible, and available individuals of color that have expressed interest numerous times for numerous years, and it has gone unheard each time. It is time that all these boards and commissions be revisited. No, not revisited. Be visited and changed. When they get revisited, they go to make sure that the work that they are there to do is being done. We need individuals that are going to come there, provide insight of this diverse and wonderful state like we should. We each have something to offer, and we all should be able to work together in peace, in harmony, and most important, in truth. I leave you with, before asking any of my colleagues if they have anything that they would like to say, they would like to offer, I leave you with the ultimate measure of this woman and this legislator, this lawmaker, is not where I stand in the moments of comfort and convenience. but it's where I stand in these days of trials and tribulations and change.
Right. Right.
I am here as a mother, as a woman, as a person of color who have lived it and speak it often in the chamber, in the public, in private, and all the time. To say to you, if you're truly ready to make the change that Rhode Island needs to make, not plans I'm making, not going to think about seeing, but is ready to make, honestly ready to make, because some of these things can be done with a stroke of a pen. Some of these things can be put in line and done immediately. We should not have to live with these archaic laws and these people with narrow mindset that it's only about them first, second, last, and always. There is more than enough for everybody to benefit because we too put into the pot. I thank you for being here. I thank my colleagues who have bravely showed up, because the ask, and I won't say a demand, because it's my hope that consciously I don't have to demand these changes, knowing that the ask was one of those that may not represent their district in a good light. There's many things that my district is suffering from, the many things that others are benefiting from. And I have to speak up. And I'll continue to speak up. And anyone who's willing to join me to speak up on behalf of all those marginalized, oppressed, dismissed people, I say, welcome. If there's anyone who would like to say a few words.
Rep, will you condemn the riot from the other night?
No, I do not.
You won't condemn the riot the other night?
I do not condone any type of rioting. The rioting of the other day was a distraction. It was a distraction that was perpetrated by individuals who may have their own agenda.
35
and they have the right for their agenda. Listen, don't disrespect me. Let me speak, and I will call upon you at the right time. And you're a perfect example about the disrespect. Wait your turn. Wait your turn. He's always, and this is a perfect example.
She said she was.
I said I was calling on my colleagues.
Am I talking to you or him?
Have some respect.
You just a all of us. You said you would take questions.
I say
the state house behind you is vandalized.
I do not condone violence. The acts of those individuals was not a peaceful one. They have the right to express themselves, but
by burning a
I do not condone what they did, and I don't believe anyone here condoned it. They had their way of expressing what they did for reasons of their own, but it has nothing about the truth, the facts, and the direction that this state needs to go in. If anybody like John DePietro wants to be able to utilize that against a peaceful press conference, a peaceful rally, our youth, our community of color, then he's a problem. I certainly am. I certainly am. At this particular time, I would ask and welcome any of my colleagues if they would like to step to the podium to say a few words. Mr. Speaker, would you like to do that?